Hi friends, welcome to Introducing. My name is Irina and I work at the National Portrait Gallery, where we share the stories of people who have helped shape the United States. Each week for Introducing, we shine a light on some of this country's history makers and their portraits. Just like reading a book, looking at a portrait can tell a story too. This month, we are looking at portraits of Native Americans or Indigenous people. And although we might all be in different places right now, we want to take the time to acknowledge or recognize that all of us stand and live on Native land. The land of Indigenous people who lived in this country long before it became the United States, and who still live here today. This week, we are introducing Mary Golda Ross. Mary Golda Ross was Cherokee. Cherokee are Indigenous people who are originally from the southeastern part of the United States. They lived on land that we now know as the states of Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. But in the late 1800s, they were kicked off of their land and they were forced to move to Oklahoma. Today, many people of the Cherokee Nation still live in Oklahoma, and that is where Mary Golda Ross was born in 1908. And this is a portrait of Mary Golda Ross. This portrait is actually from our friends at the National Museum of the American Indian. And we can see Mary Golda Ross standing in the foreground or in the front of this painting. Can you see her? She is wearing a beautiful long red dress, a pearl necklace, and pearl earrings. Can you see that pearl necklace and pearl earring? And there are two things in this portrait that help us identify Mary Golda Ross's Cherokee heritage. The first is the 7-pointed star, which represents the 7 clans of the Cherokee Nation. The second are the Cherokee letters at the bottom of the page. These letters are part of the Cherokee syllabary. Instead of an alphabet like we have in English, where each letter makes a sound, the Cherokee syllabary is a set of written characters that each represent a syllable. Now, let's look at Mary Golda Ross's pose in this portrait. She is shown with her face slightly angled. It almost looks as if she's looking at something just beyond us. And her arm, the one that we can see, is slightly outstretched. The palm of her hand is facing up. To me, it looks like Mary Golda Ross is gesturing or showing us something. What do you think that might be? Maybe it's the rocket depicted right here. Or maybe it's the beautiful night sky behind her. A night sky filled with stars. Can you see them? You can even see the stars reflected in the water at the bottom of this portrait. Why do you think Mary Golda Ross might be gesturing to the night sky or to the rocket? Well, Mary Golda Ross was the first Native or Indigenous aerospace engineer. Aerospace engineer. The first part of this word, aerospace, refers to the Earth's atmosphere and the space beyond it. The second word, engineer, is a person who builds and designs things. An aerospace engineer is someone whose job it is to design, develop, and test vehicles that can move through the air or space, like an aircraft or a spacecraft. And that was Mary Golda Ross's job. She was an aerospace engineer. Growing up in Oklahoma, education and learning were very important to Mary Golda Ross and her family. Mary Golda Ross said, "I was brought up in the Cherokee tradition of equal education for boys and girls." And Mary Golda Ross had a love and a natural skill for math. She went on to attend a school where the focus was on math and science, and soon after, she graduated with a degree in math. As an adult, she taught science and math to many others. Eventually, she was hired by 2 different organizations. One of them was called Lockheed, and the other one called NASA. Both of them were exploring space travel. And this was a time when Mary Golda Ross was first starting out as an aerospace engineer. No one had ever been to space before. Mary Golda Ross actually became a member of a top secret team whose purpose was to plan the early years of space exploration. What do you think they were planning? To this day, though, we don't know much about the work of Mary Golda Ross because it's still highly secretive. But we do know that she helped change the course of space history. So friends, thank you so much for joining us today. And a special thank you to our friends at the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian for letting us share this beautiful portrait of Mary Golda Ross. And we hope to see you right back here next week for another Introducing.